so what is your earliest memory of the conflict in Vietnam?
Probably 1965, 1966, and of course you hear it on the news. It was always on the news reports, but it really didn't matter or make any difference to me until my friends, or actually it was people that I'd gone to high school with, were leaving, going into the military and going to Vietnam. But even then it really wasn't a big deal. I was lucky. I have bad knees, and my orthopedic surgeon was on the draft board, so he exempted me. He wrote a letter, and so I was 4F. So it's the only time I'm really thankful I had bad knees, so I didn't have to go.
What kind of demonstrations did they show exactly like?
Well, there were street demonstrations, people protesting the war, carrying signs, just same as what you see today. I mean, a demonstration is a demonstration. It really didn't matter. But there were a lot more people against the war than would be, say that. Nobody really came out and said, we want this war. No, it wasn't that way. It's not like today where you have affirmative action for being in Iraq and in Afghanistan. It wasn't that way. Nobody really wanted it.
Did you ever join any of those demonstrations or anything?
No, no. I certainly wasn't for war or conflict of anything, but I did not actively seek to demonstrate against it.
What was your most memorable experience in the Vietnam War?
Most memorable one was losing my best friend. Sorry.
Okay.
Wow.
You could affect me. Sorry.
It's okay.
My best friend was Alan Perkins, and he actually joined. There was a draft, but he joined, and he was gung-ho. He thought that was really neat, and the Army was good for him. He really he accepted it well. He wanted to be in the tank corps, which he did, and then after that he decided he wanted to be a helicopter pilot. And he was a good one. But he crashed. Actually, it was a non-conflict crash, and I heard about it when I was visiting my sister. And so that's the worst thing I can remember. And there were a lot of other friends. That was the worst.
Did you watch the evening news with the war broadcasts a lot?
Oh yeah, yeah. They would show the battles and show the napalm being dropped, and the news media was definitely slanted to show the negative part of it. News, you have to understand, is an entertainment business, and when you see the news, always be very cautious about what you see and hear, because if there isn't news, they make news. And they have a very biased opinion, one way or the other. It could be pro or con, you just don't know. Back then it was definitely against the war, and rightly so.
Do you think that influenced a lot of people on like their thoughts of war and what it really was about?
Oh, absolutely. That's the only way that we as Americans knew what was happening. And of course, they put the slant on it the way they wanted it. That was our only way to know. The government was hush-hush. They wouldn't say anything about what was happening. So. And it's it's not like today where we have news reporters right in the battle.
Yeah.
It wasn't so back then. We saw it from afar.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
And they weren't as strong against the government back then. Now they can pretty much say whatever they want about the government, and back then it wasn't quite that way.
There aren't any restrictions now.
No, not really. That we know of.
Of course. We know, anyways. Just looking at like all of the weapons they use, like the napalm and the other kind of things they use to like try to find the Viet Cong and stuff. What did you think about that? Do you think those kind of tactics were necessary?
We weren't even aware of a lot of things. We didn't understand tactics back then. We didn't even know what napalm was. Who'd heard of napalm? It was one of the new technologies that came out of war. But yeah, it was difficult to make an informed opinion because facts were difficult to find. And you had to look for them. And I think a lot of Americans really didn't want to look.
Didn't want to bother. In school, did you guys ever talk about the Vietnam War or anything?
You know, I don't remember. There was no civics class or social science class that would take on that subject. If it was, I don't recall it. See, I graduated in 1967, so that was, you know, just more towards the beginning of it. So there wasn't a lot of information out there, and there weren't a lot of opinions floating around.
Would you like? What's your opinion on Richard Nixon?
Oh, he was a buffoon. I mean, you know, the caricatures you see of him and how he's perceived today is pretty accurate.
Yeah.
I never liked. I wouldn't vote for him. He wasn't my kind of politician. And in retrospect, I guess a lot of us were correct. He was an idiot.
Do you think the U.S. should have signed the Geneva Accords?
You know, I don't recall much about the Geneva Accords. You know, there wasn't a beginning to the war, and I guess you could say the Geneva Accords was the end of the war, but as a conflict that we just kind of eased into, it seemed like we just kind of eased out of it too. You know, we just started withdrawing troops and running for the high country to get out of there. So I don't know that signing the Geneva Accord really did anything. And I don't have enough information. I don't remember about it.
Do you feel like the Vietnam War impacted your life anyways, or changed it when it ended, or anything like that?
No, I think it changed everybody. You know, looking back, of course, we have a different viewpoint of what was happening and how it affected us. But yeah, we learned a big lesson. We learned that we had to support our troops no matter what. All the people that went over there, it wasn't their choice. They didn't want to be there. They want to be home with us, just like, you know, normal people. And I think that the American people treated them shabbily. Probably we still do. There's a lot of Vietnam vets that still need help this long after. So I think that's probably the biggest lesson right there, is that we've got to support our American troops, just like we are now. I think people are stepping up and supporting the Iraq and Afghanistan troops.
Did you ever hear about like how people came back mentally, like if they had PTSD, and did they really broadcast that?
Yeah, it was known. It wasn't known as how bad it was, or how large the population was. The biggest problem that I remember is our boys coming back hooked on drugs. That was a big problem. And of course that was life-changing for them, and a lot of them never changed. They just stayed with that culture. So I think that was really bad. To go over there and to fight and to die is one thing, but to be poisoned when you return and not really get the help you need,
Yeah.
That was very sad.
Do you think we should have helped them in other ways?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Should have been a lot more understanding. And never was a parade for any Vietnam vet to come home and say we're proud of you and thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Just wasn't there. Wrongly.